One of my favorite places to go in the world, among all the cities I've been to, is the old city of Jerusalem. I'm not particularly why, because it's really not the most beautiful. But there's something about the sights and the sounds and the busyness and the history. And it's not the city Jesus went to. You know, it's been destroyed and built and destroyed and built and destroyed and built. But there's something about it that's very fascinating. And no matter, Will's going to run up a few pictures, no matter which gate you go in, this is the Damascus gate, it leads you into a labyrinth, or it leads you into a maze with merchants and tourists and visitors and kids running around, because a lot of people live there. They've lived there generationally. And it's very easy as you walk down the narrow streets to get sidetracked by all that glitters and shines. Especially if you have young adults with you who've never seen a hookah pipe before. They seem to be drawn towards that sort of thing or whatever else. And it's also kind of like the beach, where if you go in one beach store, every beach store kind of has the same stuff. But you have to be careful, because as you walk through the streets and you see these sorts of things, you can get easily distracted. You know, something's over here and it takes your attention that way, and it's over here, and all of a sudden you wonder, how did I get where I am? And that can be dicey, because the old city is divided into the Christian, the Muslim, and there's the Orthodox, and they have all the different areas and security and so forth. And the main roads are the main roads, but there are a lot of side roads with doors, and you can get lost. The only time I've been nervous, in the number of times I've been there, I was with my son, and it's important to know that I always felt a little safe because he is a police officer. But we decided we were going to go to the Western Wall, and I knew so much, I was so smart, that we could take this turn right here, and there we would be. There was nobody there, and it looked clean and nice, and so we did. And about halfway up, we were all by ourselves, and we saw two young men running up behind us. And with his ears up and his eyes open, he said, "Dad, we need to move. Get out of here." Well, all the doors are locked, and we find out we are in a spot that's not going to get us where we thought we were going, and they're getting closer, and they lean over and they reach like this. And I'm thinking, Lord, I'm coming. And they pulled out guns and blew right by us. So, we didn't desire to be in that situation. We didn't intend to get in that place. That wasn't our purpose or our goal. But you know what? We made decisions and choices and were distracted, and that's where we got. What's my point? My point is, wherever we go in life, literally or figuratively, the turns we take will lead us down roads and paths in directions that sometimes are good, sometimes not so good, sometimes a dead end, and many times unanticipated. Even the best decisions take us in places we cannot anticipate or be aware of. And we get to those places not because we made a big decision and said, I'm going to take this road, the street sign says that. It's usually the little things that add together and get us to that spot. And then we don't know how we got there, and we don't know how we can get out, but that's our destiny. Nobody chooses to be bad. Nobody chooses to go in the wrong direction. Nobody intends for your life to turn out in a way that puts you in an irretrievable place. It just happens. All the little things that add up. The Gospel of Mark is divided into three sections. You have the Galilean ministry, and then it follows with another, and then the last one is the time in Jerusalem. And Mark, being a very terse writer, very short, very sharp, his phrases are to be noted. And there's one in particular that always comes to me or stands out for me. When he gets to the end of his Galilean ministry and he moves to Jerusalem, which kind of tees up where we are today, Mark says he turned his face to Jerusalem. Which in the English doesn't really jump out at you, but in the Greek it's much harder. It's almost like he steeled himself for what lay ahead. He anticipated what was coming. He knew what he would face one way or another as he went into the city. Especially at Passover, he anticipated. He steeled himself. And as he enters the city and he rides the donkey and people are shouting, he has to be aware of all that is swirling around him. And you have to believe that perhaps the disciples were whispering, what's going on here? Is this the big deal, or is this going to be a problem? And the crowd, turn this way, Jesus, turn that way, Jesus, come here. There are always people that want us to go the direction they want us to go. I'm going to go to church as long as the preacher says what I agree with. And when he agrees with me, I'm going to continue, he or she agrees with me, I'm going to continue to push. He had to have those people in the crowds. Look at me, Jesus, I got the biggest palm branch here. Come over to Starbucks, we'll take a break. But he doesn't. He pursues it on with a steeled sense of purpose. His core value is there. He knows what needs to be done, where it goes, no matter what. He enters the temple, he overturns the money changers, and for the good of the nation, this man must die. Five days later, the Romans would sentence him to death. 7 days later, we celebrate victory over all of it. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, and we've been saying it for months here as we've been looking through the lectionary, what I'm trying to say is that we are all called to live by that same kind of determination. These are challenging times. We are not long-term people. We don't think 5 years in advance. We think maybe, you can get an iPhone now and just rent it. You don't even have to buy it because next year you get a new one. We don't think that way. We're about today's news, today's issues, and tomorrow it's old news. The stick-to-itiveness, the determination, the purpose that comes from core values from which we operate, I don't know where they've gone. But there's so many trinkets and shiny things that pull us side to side. There's so many different paths we can take thinking, well, this would be fun for a while. And it is. And then we end up in that spot we never anticipated, and how do we get out of it? Let alone how did we get into it? A wise person said, a fool is born every minute. And for every fool born, there is somebody waiting to take advantage of them. Jesus entered Jerusalem with purpose, determination, knowing not merely what would come, but what the goal of his coming was meant to take us to. People who find joy and happiness in life, it doesn't come by accident. It comes not because they're better or they're smarter or more grounded, but they build their values, they build their decisions, they build their day upon the long plan of who they're trying to be. And that foundation comes from the small things, the little acts of compassion, the little concern, the little care. It isn't the big deal. We wait for the big deal all the time. It's consistent deals. Today is your confirmation. And the church says, you're moving into adulthood where you become more and more responsibility. You can't wait for mom and dad to bail you out. And if there is a problem these days, I think with many parents, it's that they bail their kids out too much. They choose not to do their homework, don't do it for them, let them fail. They'll figure it out. Because if they don't figure it out now, later, they're going to be in a world of hurt. They will be in a world of hurt. And remember the decisions you make. I know in the youth group they talk about the decisions you make for one night may change your whole life. I've known too many young adults who made a decision that changed their life, and it was on their record forever. Your character, your values matter. Do you have any Red Sox fans here? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 too many. This is for you, Will. Do I have any Cubs fans here? Okay, good. Have some good people in the house. No, just kidding. Just kidding. We were at the Red Sox opener last weekend, and we went to watch John Jaso play and Chris Sale, who our family knows. Neither of them played, so. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about is two world champion teams, but I want to talk for a moment about a book I've read called The Cubs Way about Theo Epstein. He was the general manager of the Red Sox at age 32, one of the youngest, and he took that team from the bottom to the top to making it a dynasty, something that would live actually when he left. And he did the same thing with the Cubs. They were at the bottom. They were losing 101 games a year, lovable losers, and won a championship last year. But what's interesting, revealed in that book, is he did it because he had a plan and he had a purpose. The purpose was obviously to win a championship, but the purpose was also to bring pride back to that community and that city. And he had 5 steps that he was going to take. And he was lucky he had a management that was going to give him that time. Because the papers can be brutal, especially in major markets. He was going to find the best young players he could. And he was going to do it in a fashion that obviously didn't raise the eyebrows of everybody else. We know that he used analytical statistics, that he measured players by all kinds of data and analogs rather than just watching them the old school way. But he added something else in there. When he was with the Red Sox, he worked with a corporation that had developed a neuroscience plan that evaluated people they thought they'd bring on the team to see which ones had good character. He didn't want to know that they could pitch or he said, we can fix that stuff. He wanted to know what their core was, what their main beliefs were, what their values, what they would bring to the dugout and to the team locker room. He wanted to know if these young people could work together, blend together, and become leaders. Because he said that's the only thing that's going to make them win, not immediately, but in time, and build a dynasty, something that lasts. And so they're all evaluated on who they were and who the organization thought they could become. He wasn't for the big quick fix, we'll spend a lot of money and get the biggest name we can. He was about, we're going to get the biggest people we can develop. And it's fascinating that in 5 years, he won a championship. And a championship, he said, that team has the potential to be a dynasty. You know that, I think it was Forbes rated the great leaders of the world this year. The Pope was number 3. Theo Epstein was number 1. You see, we have the potential in whatever capacity we are to make a difference. If we ask what's at our core, what's our compass, what's our main sail, what drives us, not just the big decisions, the little decisions. Why do I do what I do? Why do I spend my money where I spend it? Why do I spend my time where I what do I really value? Where is it taking me? And am I building something that will last? It's important to remember at any age. I don't care how old you are, you got living left to do. Much of life just happens to us. The difference is in how we deal or respond to it. Because our core beliefs matter, we act out of our beliefs. Because our beliefs build our character, and our character matters, and our character determines our actions, and our actions matter because our actions set the course to take us where we hope to go, which ultimately determines our destiny. And never let anybody tell you different. Amen.